this presentation tonight, and Jessica is going to be introducing our speaker. This is going to be a powerful presentation, one I'm very excited about. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your schedule, and I'm going to turn it back over to Jessica so we can get started.
Great, thank you, Devan. So today's seminar is going to tackle race and equity in the classroom and teacher and parent empowerment. I would like to introduce you to our guest speaker, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. He is educated at Morgan State, Illinois State and Union Graduate School. He has been a guest speaker at the most universities throughout the U.S. and has been a consultant to most urban school districts. He has authored 40 books, including national bestsellers, Black Students, Middle Class Teachers, Keeping Black Boys Out of Special Education, An African-Centered Response to Ruby Payne's Poverty Theory, Raising Black Boys, Understanding Black Male Learning Styles, and Changing School Culture for Black Males. His latest books are Educating Black Girls, Raising Black Girls, and Reading and Writing for Urban Survival. His work has been featured in Ebony and Essence magazine, and he has been a guest on BET, MSNBC, and Oprah. His work is used in online courses nationwide. Dr. Kunjufu is also a husband, father, and grandfather, and because of God's grace, he has not missed a day of work in 46 years. That is super impressive. I just want to go over a few things before I turn this over. Please be sure that you mute your microphones throughout the seminar just so there are no distractions. However, we do encourage you to ask questions at any time. You can simply type them in the chat box, and as you do that, I'll raise my hand and let him know that there's a question so he can stop and answer those questions for you. We will also have time at the end of the seminar for you to ask questions as well. So now I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Kunjufu.
Thanks, Jessica. And I apologize that you can't see me, but I thought it was more important that you see the PowerPoint and not me. I'm condensing a 6-day workshop into 1 hour, so there's going to be some challenges. We want to look at multiculturalism. We want to look at Black culture, racism, equity, successful parenting, and staff development. So there's 6 topics there, and normally we allocate a 4 to 6 hour period per topic. So let's get straight to it, since we're already a little into the hour. The first screen that you see is multiculturalism, and notice the various groups: Africans, Europeans, Hispanics, Native American, Asians. When we really understand multiculturalism, you don't put a group in the center. You put the event in the center, and you respect everyone's opinion. For example, if the first event was who discovered America, what do you think the popular answer would be coming from Europeans?
Well, what we all learned was Christopher Columbus in high school, so.
Right, so Europeans would say that Columbus discovered America. What do you think Native Americans would say about that same event?
I think they'd be pretty upset about that.
And that they were already there.
Right.
And if you ask Africans, if you write this down, the Olmec civilization, OLMEC, Africans had traveled to the quote unquote New World at 800 BC. There's a similarity between the pyramids in Egypt and the pyramids in Mexico. Let's go to another event. Let's go to slavery. If you ask Europeans in America about slavery, what do you think they would say? They would say that it was probably advantageous. It created a tremendous amount of wealth. Some estimate close to $400 billion in free labor. If you ask Africans about the same event, they would say there were millions of Africans who died during slavery. Let's speed this up because, again, time is limited. World War II. Where were Asians in America during World War II? Class, where were Asians in America during World War II?
Were they put in camps?
They were in concentration camps. So Europeans would have one view about World War II in America, but Asians were in camps. And if we had more time, we could talk about reparations, because Asians did receive reparations for the 2 to 6 years that they were in the camps. Last event, May 1862. What would Hispanics say about May 1862? Cinco de Mayo, where Mexico defeated the French, defeated France. It's the same event, but these groups see it differently. Now, before we go on, in your school district, are you really teaching a multicultural curriculum where the event is in the center, not white people or Black people or Asians or Native Americans or Hispanic? When you're multicultural, you put the event in the center. Let's go on before time runs out. I want to now move to Black culture. Can anyone tell me what is good hair? See, this is a dialectical term, because if you know what good hair is, you know what bad hair is. Can anyone tell me what are pretty eyes?
The probably light colored eyes.
Light color, blue, green, hazel, anything but dark brown. From a Black cultural perspective, where is the kitchen? I would love for Jessica or Lynn to answer this question. Where is the kitchen?
It's your turn, Lynn.
I don't know where is the kitchen. I'm trying to figure the answer out.
Are there any African Americans on the virtual panel?
We've got some people chiming in saying the kitchen's the center of family.
No, the kitchen is the back of the neck. It's the first place that will go back. It will become curly. It's not as straight.
Yeah.
What does straight as a ruler mean? See, it's connected with good hair. Good hair is considered straight.
Mm-hmm.
And in some neighborhoods, in some programs, you couldn't be admitted or be accepted into membership if your hair was not straight. It is very difficult to do well in school if you don't like the way you look, if you don't think you have good hair or pretty eyes, or if your classmates or your teachers don't think you have good hair and pretty eyes. Can anybody tell me what is the brown bag test?
Is that something they would, compare their skin color to?
Yes.
If you're
In order
not,
to be, there were some HBCUs, and there's the
Mhm.
sorority, AKAs, that required a brown bag test to be admitted. And if you were darker than the bag, you were denied admission into some HBCUs and some Black sororities. What is the Dial test? Has something to do with Brown versus Topeka. What year was Brown versus Topeka? Class.
You're talking about the law for allowing segregation in schools?
Yes, and so Brown versus Topeka ended segregation or attempted to end segregation in schools. And one of the reasons for Brown versus Topeka was the Dial test. Black children, for some strange reason, did not choose dolls that looked like them. They chose white dolls. Can anybody tell me what is the one drop theory? The one drop theory. Racism and race are so unscientific because in America, where whites were in the majority, one drop of black blood made you black. In Central and South America, where whites were in the minority, one drop of white blood would make you white. Can anybody connect the dots here? What is passing from a Black culture or multicultural perspective? What is passing? We're not talking about, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I would guess it's passing for a Black person or passing for a white person.
Yes, and there are over 800, there's estimated over 800,000 African Americans who are passing for white. What is colorism, and does it exist in your school? And what are 4 benefits of dark skin, and are they taught in your school? Let's look at this second question because of time. What are 4 benefits of dark skin?
I mean, I could say, like, my personal opinion that I think it's beautiful, but I'm sure that's not the answer you're looking for.
You were looking for something a little bit more scientific in terms of benefits
Oh,
of dark skin.
one could, we're learning about this. One is that you're I'm at a loss. I can't remember.
So we're going to make this a homework. Go
You
ahead.
have more melanin in your skin. Is that
Okay, wait a minute. Let's pause there. So
Okay.
what's one of the benefits of melanin? Having more melanin, because that will make you darker. But what are the benefits of having more melanin?
you don't tend to burn.
Okay, so less chance for sunburn. That's one. So this has now become a homework assignment.
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
collecting papers tomorrow morning. My email address is, I'm not laughing. My email address is Jawanza@AfricanAmericanImages.com. What are 4 benefits of dark skin, and are they taught in your school? Let's move on. Why do some youth associate being smart with acting white?
Wow.
Have you ever seen or heard 2 white students and one tease the other for doing well in school and tease them by saying, "You're acting black"? Why is it that black youth associate being smart with acting white, but white youth don't associate being smart with acting black?
Culture.
Could it be something with the culture, the curriculum,
Yep.
teachers' expectations, the reason for this workshop this afternoon?
I think it's because we don't realize it goes back and speaks to biases that we have because culture has taught us history a certain way. We've never been comfortable stepping outside and asking questions. I think it's something that we all need to seriously reflect on, especially in our country at this present time.
I totally agree, and we would love to actually visit South Carolina where we can actually see each other, touch each other, and spend a day looking at a question like this. Let's look at the second part of this question. Do some students, especially African American students, believe they are better in sports than science? Question: what percent of the NBA, the National Black Association, what percent of the NBA is African American? Class.
81%.
Very good. Did you Google that or did you know that?
No, of course not. I did not Google that.
Very good. Because because it's between 80 and 85%. Was that Jessica who answered that question?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So Jessica, I want you to start answering last because you're passing the class.
Yay.
It's the other panelists that I'm concerned with. So what percent of the engineers and doctors, now Jessica, remember you can't answer. If I find you answering the question, I'm going to label you ADD, ADHD, and give you Ritalin and place you in special education, Jessica. What percent of African Americans are engineers or doctors? Do you think it's 81% like the NBA?
No.
No.
What percent is it?
Someone put in, Sue put in 15% in the comments.
And you're very kind saying 15. Reduce that by 13 points and you're looking at.
Right. I was at 2%.
We need schools that will inspire Black and Hispanic youth that they are just as talented in math and science as they are in sports and music. Let's go on. What is PTSD?
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Close. It's the S that's different. Post-traumatic what? Not stress. It's another word starting with S.
Stupid.
No. I want to see you after class. Post-traumatic slavery disorder.
Oh.
When children associate being smart with being white, when they think they're better in sports than science, when they don't believe they have good hair and pretty eyes, they're suffering from post-traumatic slavery disorder. When they fight each other, when they use the N word and the B word, they're suffering from post-traumatic slavery disorder. Do you have any children in your school district that associate being smart with being white, believe they're better in sports than science, believe that good hair is long and straight, believe pretty eyes are anything but dark brown. Do you have any students who suffer from that? You could reduce your suspensions and fighting if we could eradicate post-traumatic slavery disorder. For homework, I want you to research the Willie Lynch letter. Can anybody besides Jessica tell me what are the dozens signifying, cracking, or ranking?
I don't know that one.
Lynn,
Don't know.
Sue, and all the others. Does anyone know what the dozens
Sue
signify?
said, are you talking about ACEs? And then Dennis said, dozens talking about someone's mother.
Excellent, excellent. It is a verbal word game off the most prized person in Black and Hispanic culture, your mother. And there are language arts skills needed to play the dozens. And when you have culturally sensitive teachers, they know how to code switch and have Black and Hispanic youth use the same skills that were needed to play the dozens, to use those same skills in language arts. We'll come back another time and discuss that in more detail. Last question on the Black Student Culture Quiz. What is Ebonics and code switching?
It's a dialect.
It's a dialect. Well, let me ask you this. Which English are you defining as being standard? That's spoken by Prince Charles in England? That's spoken by the Kennedy clan in Massachusetts? Or that's spoken by Jimmy Carter in Georgia? Which one are you defining as being standard?
I don't think there is a standard.
Right, but it appears that for some strange reason, the dialect that African American children and Hispanic children use is not acceptable to the standard.
Right, right.
And that's why I gave 3 European examples of standard English. That's spoken in England, that's spoken in Massachusetts, and that's spoken in Georgia. When you're multicultural, you widen the standard. You respect any group. You respect all groups' dialect. You allow them to code switch. You allow them to say it one time in Ebonics, another time in standard English, without putting a negative connotation on it. Let's now move to racism. These are just some of the questions that we would have been able to cover had we been given more time. I think there's about 30 questions just in this section.
I think we need to have you do more.
I want to back up just a moment.
I agree, Devan.
Can anybody tell me who was Malcolm Little? Well, I'm giving the answer. There's a relationship between Malcolm Little, Detroit Red, and Malcolm X. Malcolm Little was a brilliant 8th grade honor roll student.
Um,
And one day his teacher, Mr. Swasky, asked Malcolm Little, what do you want to be? And Malcolm Little said he wanted to be a lawyer. His teacher, Mr. Swasky, told Malcolm, you can't be a lawyer. A nigger cannot be a lawyer. And asked Malcolm to give a different answer. The words of a teacher broke Malcolm Little's spirit. He was an 8th grade honor roll student, but he eventually became a high school dropout. His nickname was Detroit Red. Why Detroit Red? Because he put a hot comb in his hair to turn it straight. He hated himself, and he went to jail because he committed a crime. And it was in jail that he learned his history and his culture. Some people say you have to go to jail to learn your history and your culture. I could have a whole day's workshop just on the relationship between Malcolm Little, Detroit Red, and Malcolm X. All right, moving to this third workshop, can we talk about racism? Have you ever heard of a teacher in South Carolina who says, oh, Dr. Kunjufu, I don't see color. I see children as children. Can someone break that statement down? Can someone explain that statement? Can someone elaborate? Because I could write a dissertation on this statement. I don't see color.
Well,
I can.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We talk about this at school when we've been talking about cultural biases. When you say you don't see color, we should see color. We should see culture. You become colorblind. And it's something that you should see color. You should respect culture, and you should understand people's differences and see that and experience those things. It's just not a comment that we want to see. That when you say you don't see color, you do see color. You're and I'm just going to piggyback because a lot of people are starting to chat about this. And Dennis said it's like saying I don't see a rose or a daisy among a bouquet of flowers. Sue said they are blind. So then they are blind.
When a teacher told me this when I was in Seattle, I asked the teacher, could I visit her classroom after the workshop? Because in a sterile library or auditorium, a teacher can tell me anything. But my experience, having done this for 46 years, teaches me bulletin boards and library collections don't lie. Now, she had a student demographic, 60% African American, 20% white, 20% Hispanic. And she told me she didn't see color. But yet when I visited her classroom, I saw an all-white Dick and Jane bulletin board and library collection. Oh, she saw color. She saw it so well. If you look at the second line here, she was in the state of denial. What she said she didn't see, she saw better than anyone else. We would love to visit your school and have a workshop on stage 1. Are you in the stage of denial? Are you in stage 2? Are you willing to admit that race, that culture is a factor? Are you at stage 3? Are you willing to understand the culture? Or are you at stage 4? Do you appreciate the culture? And let me make sure that I'm clear on this point. 83% of America's teachers are white and female. Only 6% are African American. Only 2% are African American male. But I'm not going to say that all white teachers are ineffective. I've met brilliant white female teachers with African American students. And I've also met some very ineffective, incompetent African American teachers who are instructing African American students. So it's not the race of the teacher. It's not the gender of the teacher. Later on, when I move into the workshop on staff development, we're going to look at the key traits of a master teacher. But I like the fact that a white female teacher could be more effective with African American students than an African American teacher who has not understood the traits necessary to be effective. All right, before time runs out on me, in low achieving schools, the most negative room in a school is the teacher's lounge. I wish parents could hear some of the comments that some teachers make about their children in the teacher's lounge. Let's go on. Again, if we had more time, we could talk about the missionary teacher, the cultural deficit model. How does poverty and race affect expectations? One of our concerns is that African American children are 17% of the students in public schools, but are close to 40% of the students suspended. 17 does not equal 40. We have research documenting white and black students committing the same infraction. The white student was given a warning. The African American student was suspended for 3, 5, 7, 10 days. Can someone explain to me how racism does not exist in our schools, and yet this example takes place across the country? Committing the same infraction, one receives a warning, one receives suspension. Can someone elaborate on this disparity?
I'm going to read Kevin's comment. Kevin said the most powerful weapon of inequities is discretion. And he was commenting on, in his first year, his principal pulled him in to tell him to stay out of the teacher's lounge, some of the best advice he's ever received. And he said, the intent may be noble, but you are denying race rather than embracing it. We always talk about color when mentioning minority communities and see the absence of color when speaking about the majority community.
But can someone comment on the disparity in suspension where white students are receiving warnings and African American and Hispanic students are receiving suspensions?
It just seems like maybe they're, just assuming that, if they don't give, a white student and a African American student the same punishment, then maybe the African American student will, I don't know, not learn their lesson or something. Because you see this all the time in real life, and even as grown-ups, when you see a white guy and an African American guy commit the same crime, but why does the white guy get off with a warning and then the African American guy gets sent to prison? It happens.
Yeah, and my concern is that it appears that schools are mirroring the police department.
Mm-hmm.
They are. They decide how many prisons to build based on 4th grade reading levels. About 5 years ago, it could be just a little bit longer, Charleston County underwent a drastic I guess, review of their suspensions and our warning, and we had a extreme disproportionate number of African American males being suspended for offenses, and white students receiving a completely different consequence. And now, and as a result of those people that spoke up and stayed strong and true to who they are, the policy has changed so that to stop that disparity.
And I want, I guess, Dr. Kunjufu, you said whether or not schools are mirroring police. I'm wondering if police are mirroring schools, because I think that some of this is from what they call the adultification of Black children, especially Black females, but seeing them as older or supposedly knowing better, but also seeing the other behaviors of non-white, of white students as innocuous and, oh, they're just kids.
Is that Kevin speaking?
Yeah, yes, sir.
It's good to hear your voice. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Question, and this is a homework assignment. What percent of your students in your school or your district are African American? Whatever that percentage is it the same percent for suspension? Is it the same percent for gifted and talented? Is it the same percent for special education? Nationwide, as I mentioned earlier, African American children are 17% of the students in public schools, but 40% of the suspensions, 41% of special ed students, and only 6% for gifted and talented and AP classes. Is your school in compliance as it relates to race? See, it's not enough for us to have these types of workshops if we don't address the heart of the issue, the numbers. 17 does not equal 40, 41, nor 6. We must do better. All right, before time runs out, let me move to equity. We were raising some of these same questions right here. What is the ratio and gender student percentage? What is the ratio and gender teaching percentage? What is the ratio and gender percentage of special ed? Let me park here for a moment. Why is it in most schools there are more males placed in special education than females? Have we designed a female classroom for male students? Are we expecting males to learn like females? And let me make this clear. There's a 2-to-1 ratio of white boys to white girls in special education. So this transcends race. Even white boys are placed in special ed more than white girls. There's a 3-to-1 ratio of Black boys and Hispanic boys to Black and Hispanic girls. But my main point here, why is it there are more males in special education than there are females? Can anyone answer that for me?
Because boys get unruly and they tag them as special needs as opposed to just understanding that, they learn differently. And I guess I'm just thinking that they're just a little bit more active in the classroom. And it's hard to keep them.
So maybe rather than placing them in special ed, if we provided more lesson plans for oral, tactile, kinesthetic, and visual learners, if we allow more movement, more objects, then we would meet the needs of male students. Special education was never to be a dumping ground for male students. one of the concerns that Lynn wanted me to look at was childhood prejudice. On this page here, I want to reinforce the first term here, differences. People that are secure are comfortable with differences. Blacks and whites are different. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. But insecure people will rationalize, because you're different from me, you're deficient of me. So we've observed children, especially white and black girls, white and black boys, and they accentuate differences like skin color, hair, features, physique, dress, dialect, food, music, sports, cosmetics, who's spending time with who as it relates to recess, lunch, evenings, weekends, holidays. As you know, Jessica, there are schools that look integrated on the outside, 50% white, 50% black on the outside. But on the inside, the lower track classes are on the first floor, the regular classes are on the second floor, and the gifted and talented and AP classes are on the third floor. And it really is concerning that in some schools I've seen literally an all white gifted and talented AP advanced class on the third floor, and an all black first floor remedial reading and special education.
Yeah, so even though they say that, our school is everyone's together, but really they're not, because they're all in different like levels basically, and they're not all together, and that's pretty awful.
What can we do about abolishing or reducing the impact of tracking?
I mean, it would be good to have everyone, together, and I get it, people, kids need to have different classes based on, I guess, their learning ability, but really kind of they don't, I mean, everybody learns different. That doesn't mean that you should be put in the special ed class if, or whatever. I mean, they could at least have them together and not in classes, maybe recess, maybe lunch, maybe study hall, things like that,
Because I only have, what time do you have, Jessica?
I have 7:45, but I'm good to stay
Okay.
as long as you are.
Okay, one last quick point on this page. The N-word. Have you ever heard the N-word being used in South Carolina?
Absolutely.
Yes.
What can we do about abolishing the use of the word?
I don't know.
That has just become a homework assignment. And Black youth are so creative, they've made a distinction between N-I-G-G-E-R
Mm-hmm.
and N-I-G-G-A. They've made one term a term of endearment. But the way I define the N-word, would Harriet Tubman and would Dr. King use the N-word? If they use it, I'll use it. If they don't use it, I won't use it. We can't let rappers determine the use of the word. All right, with about 3 minutes left, let me just mention.
I'm sorry. There was a
Lynn-
book that we had to read by Randall Kennedy.
Yes.
And it was about the history and the sociology of the word. And it is a powerful book to really sit down and dive in to why that word took on the negative, the connotation, but really breaks it down and brings it all the way through it. I found that just an amazing book by a great author. It was really changed the way I viewed a lot of things.
And remember when I mentioned PTSD, post-traumatic slavery disorder,
Yes.
when Black youth use the N-word, it's an illustration that they hate themselves, and that's why they're using the word. Now, Lynn wanted me right quick to look at examples of adult racism. As it relates to income, the median African-American income is $41,000. White median income is $70,000. Median African-American wealth, $17,000. Median white wealth, $171,000. Only 44% of African Americans own their homes or live in a house. 72% of whites live in a house. On the SAT, African Americans only score 941. Whites average 1118. In terms of prison and police, 3 times greater representation of African Americans in prison or being pulled over by the police. Racism is alive and well in America. Now, what I want to do right quick, my last 2 to 3 minutes, we'll come back and give another workshop on parenting, but I do want to close with a quick comment on staff development. Which gap do you believe? Do you believe the gap is because of race? In terms of why do African Americans only score 941 on the SAT and whites are scoring 1118? Do you believe it's based on race, income, the number of parents, the educational background of the parents, parental involvement, funding, school culture, principal quality, teacher expectations, classroom management, pedagogy, curriculum, time on task, values, special education, suspension, tracking, and the list goes on and on. Now, before I close with 90-90-90, there are 6 types of teachers in South Carolina. First of all, we have custodians. They're the first to leave the building. They love making derogatory comments about our children in the teacher's lounge. They graduated in 1980 using the same lesson plans 40 years later. Then we have referral agents. 20% of the teachers make 80% of the referrals for suspension and special education. Then we have missionaries. They believe in the cultural deficit model. They believe the children are broke, that there's something culturally wrong with them. If I could only take the children to my house, I could fix them. Then we have instructors. They believe what you teach is more important than who you teach. Then we have master teachers. They understand you teach the way children learn, not the way you want to teach. And then we have a coach who understands the importance of bonding with students. For homework, I would like for you to write down, if you're in the classroom, if you're in a school, I'd like for you to write down the names of your custodians, referral agents, missionaries, instructors, master teachers, and coaches. We have found research, Jessica, 2 consecutive years of an ineffective teacher could destroy a child for life.
I believe it.
So if Black and, pardon?
I believe it.
A Black and Hispanic child has a custodian, referral agent, missionary, or an instructor for 2 years, they literally could be destroyed for life. Last point I want to mention, we have found research from Education Trust and the National Center for Educational Transformation. There are over 100 schools that have 90% of their students below poverty. 90% are Black and Hispanic. See, the rumor is if you're poor, if you're Black and Hispanic, then the school is not going to do well. But look at this, 90% below poverty, 90% Black and Hispanic, scoring over 90% on the state exam. We want to return to your school district, your state, and share with you what these 100 schools did with Black and Hispanic poor students producing excellence at the 90 percentile or greater. I now will relinquish the screen. Well, I just want to look at one other point. We have some books we want to give you. You can take a shot of this. We have a teacher pack, an educator's library, a parent library, a Black history curriculum, and a children's library that we would love to give you and make available to your school district. Any questions, comments, concerns? Sorry we had to condense 6 days into 1 hour.
We do have a comment from Kevin. He said, many people lift up the missionary teachers who may be the most likely to say they don't see color. If a people are broken, then who broke them?
And that's an
Yeah.
excellent question. And as Kevin, I love people like Kevin who ask questions where they know the answer to their question. It was the custodian, the referral agent, the instructor, and the missionary that broke the student, which is why we're recommending, Jessica and Lynn and Kevin, we're recommending looping, where you stay with the same teacher for 1 to 2 years, but we only want to loop with a master teacher or a coach. That's our way of circumventing the impact of a custodian, referral agent, instructor, and missionary. And missionaries really do believe they have the best interest of the children. See, they believe, without admitting it, they believe that their culture is better than their students' culture. They believe if the children simply come to my house, I can fix them because the children are broke. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to share that we've been working on social and emotional learning inside of our school. The teachers are really diving in. We've been experiencing a lot, especially there's a great movie called Broken Places, and how children of trauma, why they sometimes react the way they do in a situation, and really realizing that it's not personal and trying to diffuse why some teachers react and throw a child out of a classroom, and the reactions that sometimes happen when the stress is happening on both sides with the teacher and the student, really trying to dive in and learn why you reacted the way you reacted, but understand what that child experiences, especially right now with COVID. We don't know what goes on in those homes, and you don't know what goes on in a teacher's home. So there's lots of things right there to understand that our number one job is to lift those children up, and that anything's possible, and we can overcome.
I like the way you said that, Jessica, where we need to lift the children up. We need to encourage them. We have a workshop on bonding, And what Black and Hispanic children need more than anything else is encouragement, high expectations, knowing that teachers care about them. Bonding is crucial.
I wanted to mention you talked about the teachers, the different types of teachers, and what I've recently realized is, we put a lot of emphasis on how long a teacher's been in school.
Kevin, you still here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we lost your voice.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was saying that we sometimes measure the amount of years we've had teachers in schools, but I just actually had to do an assignment of an equity audit and realize in reading some literature, placing the emphasis on how many years a teacher is in school can also be very dangerous if that's not an effective teacher. And one thing that happens, I believe, and just some literature tells us, is that the most effective teachers leave the profession sometimes at higher rates than the teachers. And as a school leader, that is something that is one of the most important things, which is who gets to stand in front of the children over whom you have charge.
Two excellent points. Seniority does not measure efficacy. And unfortunately, in many cities nationwide, because of strong unions, the teacher with the greatest amount of seniority is allowed to stay. And you could have a very effective teacher who has less than 5 years of experience, and that teacher is removed because of budget reasons. And the children are the ones that suffer. That's why I raised the question, are we student-centered? Are we board-centered? Are we teacher-centered? Because if we're student-centered, then we always make the best decision in the best interest of the students. Any other questions or comments?
Sue Klopfer said that this has been the best presentation by far. And I have to agree 100% on this. And I'd really like to discuss with you, we can email or anything to bring you back, because I feel like we could really make an impact on people. So just this really opened my eyes to a lot of different topics and issues that, other people go through, that I may not experience those same issues, to be honest, so.
Well, I would be honored, but my only concern is that I need more than an hour, and I would love to be physically in South Carolina where I can see you, touch you, and we can bond with one another.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
The vaccine is on the way. The cure is already available. So it's only a matter of time before we can fly to South Carolina and be with you in the flesh. In Jesus' name.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say thank you for being here. I think it's long overdue. Sue's comment, and it's long overdue. And I think it's been nice to be able to listen to each other and talk and conversation. So as a result, I just want to say, I want to tell Jessica, thank you for navigating this for us, and thank you for being here and speaking. And I would love to have you. I think there's a couple options in our school district that I'd like to share your information with and have you come in and speak to staff. I think it would be powerful, and I think it would be worthwhile. And because of everybody that was on the call tonight, we're gonna email you and give you the 3 options of the books, and everyone that's here will let you choose a book and we will ship it to you. So I know you gave up your time, but I appreciate the discussion. And again, thank you everyone for being here. Jessica?
Yes, absolutely. Did anybody else have any questions, or Dr. Kunjufu, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Well, just in closing, I want people to remember one of the statements that I mentioned. It is not the race of the teacher. It is not the gender of the teacher. A white female teacher could be more effective than an African American male teacher with African American male students. The traits of a master teacher are not race or gender. It's bonding, time on task, classroom management, expectations, differentiated instruction, and a relevant curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not a teacher. I don't work for any school district, but I'm highly involved and very active in a lot of different schools, especially in the district that I'm in. But I really would like to learn more about this and the things that you've been talking about. And like I said, we would absolutely love to have you again for sure. So hopefully COVID goes away soon and we can, get you in and see you and talk and really get deep, because this is a very, very deep conversation, and I think it needs to be had. I know it needs to, this conversation needs to happen, and not just now, but everywhere and more often. So I know that if you have opened my eyes to a lot of the issues and your history lesson, I know that you have opened other people's eyes that are here in this call. So if nobody has any other questions, we have a couple people that said, thank you for being here. Thank you. Kevin said, thank you for being very plain in that statement. The traits of a master teacher transcend race and gender. And then we have more people saying thank you. So we cannot thank you enough. I will definitely keep in touch with you. And you have
Well, God bless everyone and have a great evening.
Yes, absolutely. You too. All right.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna switch you off as the presenter. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, let me figure out how to do that. Where are you? Nope, that's not you. There you are. All right. Okay. Oh, I think if I do this, it's gonna hang you up.
Hang on a second, Jessica. I want to take one quick picture of all the attendees so I can make
Okay.
sure we email them.
I also did too, so yes. I can
Okay.
see you now.
All right, I got it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think when I make myself the presenter again, it's gonna hang up on him unless he does it. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna end the call. I hope you guys all have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you at the next presentation. Dr. Kunjufu, thank you again. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you all soon, hopefully.